Marc Duncan. I'm sort of the regional sales manager for Australia. I'm located here in the States out of the NetDocuments World Headquarters, but I am completely in charge of the Australian market, which is why you're talking to me today. So again, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy mornings to take a look at this. To make things effective and to really get through this and make sure everybody can get on with their busy day, we're going to jump right into NetDocuments. And unlike a lot of webinars, we're actually not going to do a PowerPoint, which I'm sure everybody will appreciate, but we are just going to go through this one slide very, very quickly because I have to just introduce you to NetDocuments. As a company, there's a couple things about NetDocuments that a lot of people don't know, and one of those is that we've actually been around a very long time. NetDocuments launched our service in 1999, and in the world of cloud computing, that is an eternity. In fact, NetDocuments is absolutely considered one of the pioneers in the world of cloud computing and SaaS computing in general. What that means to a law firm is generally they like to do business with vendors who have experience and vendors who have been around and are stable and that sort of thing, and NetDocuments definitely has that. Secondly, as a company, one thing you'd be interested to know, we have a laser beam focus on legal. That is our market. Law firms represent roughly about 90% of our customer base, if not more. We have well over 1,500 firms all over the world using NetDocuments. Here in the States, we have close to 15% of the AmLaw 100 firms now on NetDocuments. And all of these firms have switched out sort of the old school legacy document management systems like OpenText, iManage, WorkSite, of course, or WorldDocs, or whatever it may be. So that's a little bit of an introduction to the company. Now, real quick on this slide here, we're not going to go through all of those. There's obviously some pretty simple benefits to cloud computing that everybody knows. Those are things like, built-in business continuity. Because it's being hosted in the cloud, if something happens at your offices, you're still online, you're still up and running. All you need is internet access to do that. Inherent mobility, that's kind of a simple one. Because it's a cloud-based system, you can access it from anywhere in the world at any time. Performance and reliability, reduced total cost of ownership. These are all sort of fundamental cloud selling points that I think all of us know. But there's a couple ones on here that I want to focus on because they really have to do with the end user. And it really is these first 3 or 4. Simplicity and improved usability. As you're going to see in the demo, NetDocuments is an extremely simple system to use. Vendor relationship and feedback loop. This is something that is extraordinary in the world of legal technology. Firms that use NetDocuments are interacting with us on a day-to-day basis. We're a service. We're essentially an extension of their IT departments. We know them by name. They know us by name. They're interacting with the people who are writing the code. As many of you can appreciate, that is a paradigm shift from the way most law firms deal with their document management system. They never interact with the vendor. There's usually a partner in between there sort of moderating that, and they certainly don't have access to the people designing the code and writing the code. That is certainly the case with NetDocuments, though. You have direct access to us, and because of that, the feedback loop is very, very good. This is very much a system that is designed by its users. Last but not least, updates and upgrades are automatic. In my personal opinion, this is one of the greatest benefits of a cloud-based document management system. For one reason, you'll never be on an old version of NetDocuments. As all of you can relate, most law firms are running an older version of their document management system, and they certainly want to upgrade, but do they have the money, the resources, the ability to do that? That's another question. With NetDocuments, that whole concept goes out the window. Because it's a cloud-based system, we do roughly 4 or 5 releases a year, so you're always running the latest version of the system. Just imagine that. You're always running the latest version of your document management system. And that trickles down to the end user as well. Because we update 4 or 5 times a year, the service stays modern, the user interface stays modern, new technologies get incorporated. We really become an agile service for you and the rest of the firm. Okay? So, again, those are sort of the document management fundamental selling points, or more specifically, the cloud computing fundamental selling points. But without further ado, let's close that out, and let's get over to the actual NetDocuments service. And this is what all of you want to see, so we're anxious to sort of show it to you. So what you're seeing on my screen now is NetDocuments. And a couple things you're going to notice right off the bat. First off, I'm in my browser. So that's a validation that this truly is a browser-based application. No application to launch open or anything of the sort. You simply log in through your browser. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yes, we integrate with Active Directory for single sign-on. Yes, we have federated identity, so you can really customize the way people are logging in. Yes, you can absolutely integrate with something like an RSA for multi-factor authentication. Yes, you can restrict access to certain IP addresses or IP address ranges. Yes, you can do all of that. But put simply, unless you do that, NetDocuments can be accessed from anywhere in the world at any time simply via your browser. Second thing you're going to notice right off the bat is that user interface. Very simple, very clean. There's a term that gets thrown around, Google-esque, and what that means is you can just jump in and get to understand the system quite well. And that is why you'll see a better user adoption with NetDocuments. The sort of, on-premise document management systems have a certain level of user adoption. What we find is that NetDocuments consistently beats that, and the main reason for that is because of that simple interface, which you'll see and appreciate more as we sort of go through the service. Let's kick things off very quickly by explaining the hierarchy of a NetDocuments account. So look with me in the upper left of my screen. The highest level of a NetDocuments account is called a repository. So my repository is this fictitious firm called Mahoney & Hexum. Of course, for you, it's going to be the name of your law firm. You can think of a repository as an umbrella. It's the highest level that everything else falls underneath. Then inside of a repository, you're going to organize your documents into cabinets. So as we move down this navigation pane, you notice it says cabinet right here. And in my example, I have 3 or 4 different cabinets. Your firm can have as many or as few cabinets as you want. And cabinets are used to break out documents at a very high level. So one very common scenario that we see is a lot of firms say, well, we have our main cabinet for sort of matters, but then we have, a separate cabinet for our internal documents, and we want to separate those. We want to adjust the access so that only certain people see certain cabinets. You can absolutely do that. Furthermore, you can have an extranet cabinet. This is one of the greatest benefits of NetDocuments is that collaboration or that extranet ability is built into the system. So if you have a very large case and you need, thousands upon thousands of documents and multiple parties throughout the world collaborating, you can build a separate cabinet for that as well, all of which lives underneath that repository umbrella. Okay? Then inside of a cabinet, you're going to organize your documents exactly as you would expect. You're going to organize them with profiling. Now, this is nothing new. In fact, I only show you this screen to give you the peace of mind that NetDocuments, like any good document management system, is built on the concept of profiles. Now, your profile fields will be 100% customizable to your firm. Most law firms have some variation of what you're seeing on my screen: client, matter, author, doc type. But again, this is completely customizable to you. And yes, we can automate this so that it's automatically tied to your time and billing system. There's all sorts of ways to automate these lookup tables and all of these profile fields just as you would expect. So as a quick review, the hierarchy of a NetDocuments account: you have a repository, then you have cabinets inside of that repository, then you're going to organize the documents within those cabinets with this concept of profiling, which should look very, very familiar to all of you. So now that you've seen that hierarchy, let's get into the fun stuff, and that is, how does an end user actually interact with this system on a day-to-day basis? And there's 2 simple answers to that. The first is they search, and the second is they go to what we call a matter-centric workspace. And they certainly don't have to do it in that order. They can do a mixture of both on any given day. But let's start with searching. As with any document management system, searching in NetDocuments is paramount. It's one of our greatest features. And all of the searches in NetDocuments originate out of this very simple search box right up here at the top of the page. So if a user ever asks, how do I search? The answer is always the same. You go to this simple search box. And they can, of course, go up there and start typing anything that they know, and we'll look at that in a moment. But oftentimes when people search, they know at least a little bit about the documents that they're looking for. And so in that scenario, they'll start by clicking Advanced Search. And when you click Advanced Search, you're taken to a page that looks like this. And all of us have seen these types of pages before. This is basically NetDocuments saying, look, tell me what you're looking for, and we'll find it. And you can see there's all sorts of different things that you can search on there. Most importantly would be any of those custom profile attributes that you've created. Now, again, we've all done searches like this, but I'm going to do one just so you can see sort of how fast and intuitive and simple this is. This is where a user would go in and say, well, I want to search all documents for this client. I want to narrow my search down to those 3 matters, and I only want to see documents that are agreement, letters, or pleadings. They put in that information, they come down here and hit search, and generally within a couple seconds, NetDocuments comes back and says, here's any documents anywhere that match that criteria. Now, again, we've all done searches like that, but what you're going to notice about NetDocuments, it's fast, it's simple, it's intuitive. A couple other things on this. Obviously, if this is a search the user's just doing day in and day out, they can save that search. They can go up here to the upper right where it says Search Result Options, click Save Search, and the next time they log in, they just click that Save Search and get an updated list of results. Furthermore, these columns, you can absolutely sort on these columns. You can click instances within that column, and we'll highlight every other place it exists. This is a very nice column view. Now, your firm will have a default column view, so you'll say, look, if you have no other ideas, we recommend matter, author, and modified date, but each user can change that as often as they like. So they can actually click this gear icon and say, well, for me, it's better to have author first, or I want to call them for document ID. They can change this as often as they want to make themselves more efficient. If they get too far down that path, they can always just click Restore Default Settings and go back to that default column view for the firm. So not only is it easy to do those searches, but once you get your results, the column view, the sorting, the filtering, the saving the search is all very easy as well. So that's an example of an advanced search. Now let's go back to this advanced search page. Obviously there's going to be times where you don't know that much about the document you're looking for. All you know are keywords or phrases, and of course that's an example of a full text search. So this field here that says search all attributes, that's your full text search field in NetDocuments. Now those types of searches were so popular that we actually broke that field out and we put it right up here at the top of the page. And what that means is that at any time while you're browsing around NetDocuments, you can go up to that search box and say, you know what, I'm in a hurry. Just find me any document that contains the word agreement or contains whatever phrase or sentence you want to put in there. Put in what you're looking for. Within a couple seconds, NetDocuments will come back and say, here's any document anywhere that contains the word agreement. Now, I did one simple word there. You can do so much more than that. If you're familiar with any of the Westlaw or Lexis type searching, all of those same rules can be done here. So for example, you could do a proximity search. Find me the word breach within 10 words of the word agreement. You can do your Boolean operators. Find me the word breach and the word agreement or the word agreement. You can put quotations around an exact sentence or phrase. You can put a wildcard in there. All of that very powerful searching you can do. But again, in my example, I put one simple word. Now, a couple other things you're going to notice when you do a full text search. First off, we show you a snippet of where in the document we're finding that particular word. So here's a snippet of where the word agreement appears in this particular document. This is exactly what Google does, so all of us have a very keen sense of familiarity to this. If you want to see more than that, all you have to do is check the box next to the document, click Preview, and over here on the right, we'll give you a preview of the entire document, and we'll highlight every single time the word agreement appears, or every single place where your search term appears in that document. So you have a snippet and you have a preview as well. Very, very simple. Okay? A couple other things on this full text searching. Obviously, one of the drawbacks of full text searching is the amount of results you're going to get. You can imagine in a firm of your size, if you search for the word agreement, you'd probably get thousands upon thousands of documents returned to you. Nobody has time to go through all of that. So NetDocuments allows the user to analyze their search results. So over here on the right-hand side, it says Search Analysis. If you click that, generally within a couple seconds, NetDocuments will analyze your search results. And we'll say, look, we found 1,000 documents with the word agreement. Within those 1,000 documents, here are 100 different topics being discussed. Here are 79 different companies being mentioned, people, locations, matters, authors, doc types. We extract all of that information so that you as a user can say, well, I just want to see documents with the word agreement that have to do with the company Lehman Brothers. Check that box, and all of a sudden you've narrowed your search results from 1,000 documents and emails to maybe 5 or 6 or 7, something much easier to digest. Okay? And the last thing I want to show you quickly with the full text searching is NetDocuments has Find Similar functionality as well. So I just did a search for the word Croatia. Now you'll notice NetDocuments found one document, actually in this case an email, that mentions Croatia. So building off of what you've already seen, let's preview what this says. So here's a preview of that email with a highlighted instance of every single place the word Croatia appears. Now, if you look carefully, though, this email is actually talking about the Syrian conflict, and it mentions Israel, Lebanon, all of these different things. Now, let's say this is close to what you're looking for, but not exactly. You can right-click on that original search result, click Find Similar, and within a couple seconds, NetDocuments will analyze your original search result and come back and say, well, here's anything that's even similar to that. So now it's finding all sorts of other documents in the firm that are even similar to the one that you originally found. And so this is not something you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, but it's very, very useful if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. You just know concepts, phrases, that sort of thing. Okay? Okay, now taking a step back, and in just a moment we're going to pause for questions, but I want to take a step back and show you one other thing. A moment ago I mentioned there's two main ways that users access documents in NetDocuments. One of those ways is searching, which we just looked at, but there's a second way, and that is with what we call a matter-centric workspace. Now, a lot of you may be familiar with matter centricity. The idea is that for users who just don't want to search, they can go to one place and see all of the documents laid out for them very, very easily. So let me show you how this works in NetDocuments. Over here on the left-hand side, you have this navigation pane, and you have a box that says Search Client, and when you choose the client, another box for Matter will appear. Now you can click this little ellipse button and choose from all client matters in the firm, or more realistically, you can just start typing the client number or name, and NetDocuments will predict it. So I'm just typing some client matter numbers or names, and NetDocuments is predicting that over here on the left. The point is, once you choose a client matter over there on the left-hand side, NetDocuments refreshes the page and says, okay, here's every single document and email that's been added by anybody in the firm for that particular matter. Even if you have multiple offices, this becomes your global matter file for all documents and emails for that particular matter. Okay? Now, a couple more things on this I want to point out to you. First off, over here on the left, you saw me sort of use these boxes up here. That's all well and good, but most of the time your users will use their recent and favorite matters list. Again, not a terribly new concept, but if you look at a matter workspace, so in my example, acquisition of Acme Financial, that will automatically show up at the top of your recent matters list. Furthermore, if you star a matter, so click that little star icon right there, that will automatically appear in your favorite matters list. So over time, your users will use their recent and favorite matters list much more than they'll ever use this search box up here at the top. A few more things on matter centricity. First off, you'll notice that we're automatically organizing the documents by document type. So we're automatically creating what's called a filter, which is essentially like a saved search, and we're automatically organizing this by document type. But you as a firm have so much control and customization on these workspaces. You can have different templates based on matter types or practice areas. There are all sorts of different things you can do. But again, by default, we simply organize everything by document type. Now, there's certainly going to be scenarios where a user comes to a matter workspace page like this and says, look, I don't have time to look through all of this. I'm just looking for something specific in this matter. Well, notice the search box up here at the top. When you're looking at a matter, this search box defaults to the name of that matter. So you could simply type what you're looking for, and NetDocuments will do a matter-specific search for just that. Okay? In addition, there's going to be times where you land on a matter-centric workspace and you say, look, I don't want to see all the different documents laid out by document type like this. I just want to see the most recent. What are the most recent emails, documents, or both for this particular matter? In that scenario, just click Switch to List View up here. And when you click Switch to List View, NetDocuments dynamically changes the view and says, okay, forget the different doc types. Here's just the most recent documents, emails, or both for that particular matter. And lastly, I showed you how you can analyze a search result in NetDocuments. You can analyze an entire matter as well. So perhaps I'm a brand new lawyer that just got hired on by the firm. I just got assigned to this matter. Well, I can go in and within a couple of minutes, I can analyze that matter and see all of the different topics being discussed in these documents and emails, the people, location, dates, authors, et cetera, et cetera. So to summarize that, workspaces are much more than sort of just a pretty face. They're very functional. You can sort of dynamically change the view. You can search very quickly, or you can just utilize this sort of fantastic initial document type view that the workspaces have. And the last thing I want to show you about matter centricity, and this is very, very important, 99% of the time, the organization of matter centricity is perfect. In other words, again, we're automatically creating these document type filters. We're automatically putting the documents in there. 99% of the time, that's exactly what you want. But there is that 1% of the time, or maybe more, where you say, look, that's all well and good that you're organizing and automating this for me, but I need to logically group this together in a way that makes more sense to me. This happens all the time with litigation departments in law firms where they say, look, I have maybe a closing tomorrow, and I need 3 documents from here, 3 documents from here. I need to group documents together in a way that makes more sense to me. So there's multiple ways a user can do this. They can create saved searches and throw them on the workspace here. But the most common approach, and this is very, very important, they can go up here to where it says Workspace Options and simply click Add Folder. So I'm going to create a folder that says, let's say, Closing Docs. I create a folder that says Closing Documents. Now, by default, NetDocuments is going to put that at the bottom. Bear with me while I go and bring that to the top. So now on this Matter workspace, I have a folder called Closing Docs, and I can create subfolders and sub-subfolders to that, whatever I want. But here's the point. I can say, you know what? I want this document in Closing Docs. I want this email in Closing Docs, and I can literally just start dragging and dropping into that folder. Those documents will still live in the document type filters where they're supposed to, so you still get that consistency, but they're also showing up in this folder that you've created, and that's where you get that flexibility. So NetDocuments Matter-Centric Workspaces really give you two things that are usually mutually exclusive. One, you have flexibility because you can create as many of these custom folders as you want, and at the same time you have consistency because we automatically organize the documents in these document type filters. And lastly, these folders that you create, by default, everybody else who has access to the matter can see those folders. So it actually really builds that team working environment where you can say, look, I've created a folder that says documents needing attention, and you can tell your team members to go in there and find those documents. Or once you create the folder, you can simply hide it and say, well, I don't want anybody else to see this folder. I just want it for me. So there's lots of different options there on how you can approach that. Okay? So to summarize, there are two ways that a user accesses documents in NetDocuments. They either search, which we looked at, or they go to the Matter-Centric Workspace. And the reality is that on any given day, they're doing a mixture of both. But as you can see, both options are very easy to do, very intuitive. Okay, Tony, I'm going to take my first pause here for any questions that may have come up as we've gone through this before we kind of jump into the next piece of the demo.
I do have a couple of questions that are common around this time in the demos that we've done together. In the search performance, if there are, like, you're working on a very small subset there of documents, what's the difference like if there's 10 million documents in there?
Yeah, very little difference, if you can imagine that. So NetDocuments is built for scalability. So NetDocuments absolutely can handle, I think our largest law firm brought in 50+ million documents. And so we can easily handle any scale that you have. Even if your document sets are very, very large, so we're talking millions and millions, your searches will still be very, very quickly. So at our data centers, our analytics show us that every single search in NetDocuments happens in a second or less. So the actual search happens in a second or less. The only thing you're waiting on is for those results to load, your page to load, and that sort of thing. And that varies depending on maybe your internet connection or how many results are being displayed there. But it's generally very, very fast. So the short answer to your question, Tony, is that yes, this is a demo account, and there are lots and lots of documents in this demo account, but it is a small subset to compare to what the average law firm would have. But you should expect your search results to be quite similar to what you're seeing on my screen. There, by no means do we have any smoke and mirrors here. This is actual production NetDocuments.
Cool. And there's a question coming from Tony Rehal. What browsers does NetDocuments support?
That is a very good question, Tony. So NetDocuments supports the 4 main browsers: Internet Explorer, Chrome, Safari, and Firefox. The actual interface of NetDocuments will look and feel the same across any of those browsers. So everything that you've seen today so far will look and feel exactly the same across those 4 main browsers. The only difference there is when it comes to editing documents. Because Internet Explorer is a little bit more robust browser, it has an ActiveX piece, editing documents is literally a 1 or 2 click process when you're using Internet Explorer, and you'll see that in a moment here in the demo. In other browsers, it's a little bit more manual of a process. So for example, in Chrome, when you go to edit a document, you sort of manually check it out, and then when you're done, you sort of manually check it in. Still very, very easy. But because it's so seamless in Internet Explorer, we recommend whenever possible that Internet Explorer is sort of the browser used for NetDocuments, but we do support the support the 4 main ones. Perfect. Okay. So now that we've seen sort of the structure of NetDocuments, there are a couple more pages I want to talk about just very, very briefly. So far, the pages that we've looked at in NetDocuments are very much firm-wide pages, right? Everybody sees the Matter-Centric Workspace. Everybody sees the search pages. Again, firm-wide. Everybody sees those. I want to switch gears and talk about very quickly 2 pages that are unique to each user. Okay? The first of those is recent docs. Very self-explanatory, so we're going to go through this quite quickly. Recent docs is unique to each user, and it shows them the most recent documents that they've worked on. Now, if you click this down arrow, it will show you the 5 most recent documents that you've edited, opened, and added. If you want to see more than that, you just simply click Recent Docs, and we will show you the 40 most recent documents that you've edited, opened, and added. Now, in a lot of law firms, they say, well, I never use Recent Docs because I have to edit a document for it to show up there. That is not the case in NetDocuments. Certainly, if you edit a document, it will show up here, but we also show you your recently opened and added as well. Very, very useful. Now, the last thing I'll show you on this page is if you find a document, so let's say this U.S. Trade Representative one, you say, well, where in the world is this? Check the box next to it, and you can always preview it, which we looked at, or you can look at details. And when you look at details, it'll show you every bit of information about this document you could ever want, including all of the profile information, which can be changed right there in line, or the location. So it'll actually show you the exact matter that this document is working on, the exact folder, if it's living in that. Very, very simple stuff. So recent docs, unique to each user and very, very useful. The other page that's unique to each user is something very simple but is extremely popular with NetDocuments customers, and that's this concept of a home page. So each user has a home page. You can always get back to it by clicking this home link up here in this breadcrumb, or it's the first page you see when you log into NetDocuments. So here's an example of my home page. If this looks familiar, that's because this is where we started in the demo. So again, it's unique to each user, and each user can customize this to their heart's content. So they can click Customize Layout, and they can add 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, multiple section headings. They can really get the look and feel exactly as they want it. But here's the point of all of this. Let's say that I'm browsing through NetDocuments. I'm going to go back to this matter-centric workspace, and I say, you know what? I've created this closing docs folder. The closing is tomorrow, so I'm going to go in and star that folder. Furthermore, going back here to the workspace, there's a couple documents in here I know I'm going to need to reference. One is this one that says Friday's document, so we're going to star that. There's a PDF down here that says Compliance Regulations. I'm going to star that as well. Again, anything that's important to you as a user, you can simply star. Anything that you star automatically shows up on your home page. So then the next time you log in or the next time you click home, anything that you start is right here ready to go. So up here in the upper right, there's those 2 documents and there's that folder. So not only does it show up on your home page, but then from here you can say, well, I want to put this down in documents needing attention. I want this one to go down in work related, or whatever the case may be. Very, very simple stuff. When you're done, you simply unstar those items, click refresh on your browser, and they're gone. They're out of sight, out of mind. They're no longer on your home page. So very, very useful for people who say, look, there are certain documents that I always need to know where they are. I cannot lose those documents. And to be quite honest, this is one of the reasons people are afraid of switching document management systems is they say, look, there's documents I'm in every single day, and I can't risk not being able to find those. Star them, put them on the home page. No matter what happens to that document behind the scenes, it will always show up on that user's home page. Okay? So recent docs, home pages. Very simple functionality, but unique to each user and very, very useful. Okay? All right, now let's switch gears here again. So far, we've talked so much about the structure of NetDocuments, the different page views and layouts. Now it's time to get into the documents themselves. And we're going to talk about 2 main things here. First off, editing and working on these documents, and secondly, the actual document options, what you can do with these documents. But let's start with editing documents. A lot of people are very curious about this. You know, how is editing going to work when you're using a cloud simple? It is, a cloud system. It is very, very simple. All you have to do is simply click on a document. So if you say, look, I want to edit this Word document right here, you simply click on it. NetDocuments will automatically check out that document. In other words, we'll automatically grab a copy of it from our data centers, and we'll automatically open it up in whatever application it is. So this is a Word document. It automatically opened up in my local version of Word. So if you have any custom macros, anything you've done in your edition of Word, that's perfectly fine. As you would expect, this document is now checked out to me. So if you look behind Word there, you'll notice this little green checkbox on the document. Everybody else in the firm, even if you have multiple offices, will see that checkbox, and that will be a visual indication that this document is checked out. If they hover over that checkbox, it will actually tell them this document is checked out to Tony Brooks at this date at this time. Very, very helpful information. So once you have the document checked out, you simply edit just like you always have. So you go in here and you make a change, edit, work, do whatever you need to do. When you're done, you either save it if you just want to override that document, or, of course, if you want to make a new version, you simply hit Save As. exactly what you're doing now. If you click Save As, we'll ask if you have any notes or comments about that particular version, and then we'll guide you into creating a new version of that document. For the sake of time, I'm just going to click Save, close it, and NetDocuments will automatically check that document back in. So if you watch the bottom right of my screen, it just automatically checked that document back in. So at this point, I can just start browsing around NetDocuments. I can go and do whatever I want, start browsing, and I'm done. That simple. And so the gentleman asked earlier on, what browsers do we recommend? That's one of the #1 reasons we recommend Internet Explorer. Is that checkout and check-in process is so very, very simple. It actually happens in one click. And you can have multiple documents checked out at one time. You can have a document checked out and be browsing into multiple other pages in NetDocuments. It's all very, very simple. Okay. Now, a couple more things on this. I want to talk quickly about versioning. So I mentioned how you can create a new version. The question that always comes up, of course, next is how do I access those older versions? Well, you'll notice right below every single document name, it says V10, V13, V32. That is, of course, your version numbers. And if you click that V32, there's all 32 versions of this document, the date that version was created, and any notes by the person who created it. So this is where you could go through and open up older versions. You can lock particular versions. You can check the box next to 2 versions and launch Open Workshare, Delta View, whatever it is to do your compares. Very easy dialogue to manage these versions. And lastly, you can have different file extensions as different versions. So you could have version 1 through 9 as a Word document tracking all of those changes, and then version 10 could be a PDF that was sent to the client. Very, very simple way of sort of accessing these older versions. Okay? Now, that's how you edit a document through the browser, and that's all well and good, and that's all fantastic, but obviously we're talking about law firms here, and there are certain users in every law firm, and I'm sure everybody listening and can relate to this. There are certain users in every law firm who say, look, I will never go to the browser to edit my documents. I'm just not going to do that. It's a paradigm shift from the way that I work. What I do first thing in the morning, every day I log into my computer, is I open up Microsoft Word, and I start working from here. I hit File Open, or I just create new documents, whatever it is. NetDocuments accommodates that user extremely well because we are fully integrated into Microsoft Office, so much so that we almost function like an invisible document management system. And here's what I mean by that. I've minimized every other application on my computer just to illustrate a point here, that you do not have to be logged into NetDocuments to do what I'm about to show you. You open up Microsoft Word and you either create a new document or you hit File Open, either one. I'm going to create a brand new doc. Now watch carefully. I'm going to click Save or Save As, whichever it is. This is going to look like Word. It's going to look like I'm inside of Microsoft Word, but if you look very, very carefully, this is NetDocuments. I'm actually looking at my recent and favorite matters, and it actually took me right to the last matter I was working in, and there's that acquisition of active financial matter. There's even that closing docs folder that I created. So it looks like I'm in Word, but I'm actually fully accessing NetDocuments. Again, so much so that it's like an invisible document management system. So I can save directly into the matter, I can profile the documents, I can do all of that work in NetDocuments without ever leaving Microsoft Office. Okay, very, very important. Most document management systems have integrations with Microsoft Office. That's nothing new. But a lot of people think this is something you have to give up when you go to a cloud system like NetDocuments. It's actually the exact opposite. You actually almost get increased Microsoft Office functionality. Again, so much so that it's like an invisible document management system. So let me close that out and kind of take this full circle here, going back to the browser view. So when it comes to editing documents, you can edit through the browser, or you can edit and work directly through Microsoft Office. Either one, or you can do a mixture of both as you go through any given day. Okay? All right, so that's editing documents and versioning. Now, in addition to that, NetDocuments is a very feature-rich system. We certainly don't have time to go through all the features here today, but let me give you sort of a sampling. If I right-click on this document, here is a sampling of some of the features in NetDocuments. Now, most of this is day-to-day functionality you would expect. So, for example, email copy, email link. Both of those are tied into Outlook. So if you click those, it just automatically opens up Outlook for you to finish that process. Very simple. You want to print a document. You can print one or multiple documents without opening them. Very simple. Look at the history. There's a date and time-stamped history of every single action that's taken with the document. Rename documents. View it in the browser. Again, this is day-to-day functionality you would expect, and quite frankly, it's day-to-day functionality you couldn't live without. But in addition to that, there's lots of other pieces of functionality in here that most of you users probably have never thought of before and could be very, very useful to the way that they work. So for example, follow. This helps with collaboration. Maybe I'm collaborating with a group of individuals. I want to be notified anytime they make a change to a document. Well, I can simply follow that document. And anytime a specific individual or a group of individuals edit that document, I'll be notified automatically via email. I can also follow folders. So I create that closing docs folder. I tell my team to go and add documents into that closing docs folder. I can be automatically notified when they do that. Okay. Other features you've never thought about before. Open with. When it says open with, you'll notice it says local editor and then online editor. NetDocuments has an instant integration with Microsoft Office 365 web apps. So if you're stuck on a computer that doesn't have Microsoft Office, you can actually click online editor, which will launch the Office 365 web apps to actually do your editing. Again, not something you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. Most law firms don't even have an Office 365 strategy yet. But when you do, NetDocuments as a document management system has an instant integration ready to go. And then last but not least, collaboration. One of the biggest benefits of NetDocuments is that you have instant collaboration at your fingertips. And this is a huge problem for law firms. They spend a lot of time and a lot of money on their document management systems, and then their users end up using Dropbox or something like that to quickly share documents with their clients or whoever it may be. NetDocuments can really help rein that in because we have collaboration built in. It's one click away in the document management system. And there's really two ways of doing this. The first method is share externally. If you click share externally, it's going to guide you into creating a portal. You create the portal, you drag and drop documents into that portal, and you can give anybody in the world a secure username and password to access that portal. For the sake of time, I won't create one, but I already have one created. If we scroll down this Matter-centric workspace, located right here on the Matter-centric workspace, which is very, very slick, there's an example of that portal. You notice it has a little bit different icon. You can name it whatever you want. I named mine Matter 1005 Shared Docs. The idea is that these outside people that you give a username and password to, when they log in, they don't see this entire workspace. They just see the portal that you've given them access to. So this would be their view here. It's simple, it's encrypted, it's branded, it's a fantastic way of quickly and securely sharing documents. Now, you can give these outside people all sorts of different access. You can say, look, you can have view-only access. You can just view these documents. Or if you have a real tech-savvy person that you're sharing with, you can actually give them edit rights and let them collaborate with you, create new versions and work on these things with you, all within the NetDocuments umbrella, all encrypted and all living on the Matter-centric workspace. Very, very helpful stuff. Okay? And by the way, you can follow a portal. So if you are collaborating with someone, if you give them rights to edit these documents or add to these documents, you can actually follow any time that they've done that. Okay? Very, very useful stuff. So that's one option for sort of securely collaborating in NetDocuments. The other option is my personal favorite because it's so realistic, and that is there's going to be a scenario where a user says, look, I have one document or a set of documents that I need to securely share with somebody. They're too large or too sensitive to send via email, but I've completely forgotten how to create one of those portals in NetDocuments. Well, we also have Deliver a Secured Link. So again, you can click one document or multiple documents, choose Deliver a Secured Link, and NetDocuments automatically builds a link for you, which you can copy and paste into anything you want, or you can just send it directly to an email address from here. And if it's a sensitive document, you can go down here to Security Options and put a password on this link, expired after a certain amount of time. You can even make it so they can't download the documents. They can just view it in their browser. So whether it's creating a portal or whether it's just delivering a secured link, it's all one click away within NetDocuments. And to really take this full circle, if you remember from the beginning of the demo, there's going to be scenarios where both of those methods aren't going to work. Where you say, look, I have a very large matter, a very large case, and we have thousands of documents. So, of course, the portal's not going to work. Of course, Deliver Secured Link's not going to work. So, again, that's when you're going to go up and create an extranet cabinet inside of NetDocuments. And, again, the beauty of this is it's all within the NetDocuments service. It's not an add-on. It's not a module. It's built in to NetDocuments. Okay, Tony, another pause here before we get into the last piece of the demo, which is our Outlook integrations. I'll pause here again for questions.
Great. We only had one question that was about Office 365, so that's good. You answered that and showed the online editing, which is cool. The other question that we do get asked quite a lot is what's the licensing implications of sharing externally? Do people need, do I need to buy extra licenses for that?
No, and I can say that in almost all confidence. Very rarely no. So let me just explain the licensing on that. The portal process that we talked about, that's absolutely free. You can create as many portals as you want. You can share with as many people as you want. There's no need to purchase additional licensing for that. It's all absolutely free. And that's true of Deliver Secured Link as well. This kind of larger extranet, there is the concept of an external user. And these are people outside the firm that you actually give access to this very large extranet. But rarely do you have to pay for those, because what we do, Tony, is we give you a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every one internal user that you purchase, we give you 3 of these external users for free. So any law firm of any decent size is going to have hundreds and hundreds of those external users for free. So the very safe answer to that is there really are no licensing implications here. All of this extranet functionality is not only built in, but in 99.9% of the time, it's absolutely free to the firm, which is, again, just one more compelling reason to use this. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Well, with the remaining time that we have, last but not least, let's talk about Outlook. Now, some interesting facts from NetDocuments that you guys might be interested to know. NetDocuments is a very robust system. We have well over 1 billion documents under management, if you can believe that. And last year, we hit a pretty interesting milestone. The #1 file type at our data centers are now MSG files. It used to be Word documents for 10+ years, and then it switched to MSG files. So that's a clear indication of how people are working this day and age. Most of their work, if not all of their work, gets done via email. And so it's very important that the document management systems integrate with Outlook and allow that sort of to happen seamlessly as much as possible. So let's talk about that. Obviously, as we've gone through the demo, you've noticed these emails. So the question becomes, how did these emails get into the Matter-centric workspace? How did they get into NetDocuments? So let's pop over to Outlook and let's talk about that. Now, NetDocuments takes a little bit of a unique approach with Outlook. We are well aware that Outlook is already a very slow application. It already has lots of tie-in and lots of add-ins and lots of problems. That's just the nature of Outlook. So our goal has always been to build a very small install, 1/100th the size of the install that you would have with sort of a legacy document management system, but still provide a very high level of functionality. So when it comes to saving emails and attachments from Outlook into NetDocuments, there are essentially 2 main ways of doing this. The first method is what I refer to as sort of old school document management, and that is to simply drag and drop into folders. So if you notice over here on the left-hand side, I have a folder that says ND, NetDocuments, send to NetDocuments. If I expand that, I have a folder tree for favorite matters and a folder tree for recent matters. So as you recall, each user in NetDocuments has a recent and favorite matters list. As that recent and favorite matters list in NetDocuments changes, we automatically update this folder tree in Outlook to be consistent with that. So if they're working in the browser and they add a new favorite matter, the next time they log into Outlook, it'll be right there ready to go. If they're working in Outlook and they say, look, I need to save an email to a matter that's not yet in my recent and favorites, all they have to do is go up to this ribbon and click Add Workspace, and that will automatically be added to their favorite and recent list. Very, very simple stuff. And the end result of all of this is exactly what you would expect. You can highlight as many emails as you want and simply drag and drop those emails into whatever matter folder you want. So if you drag it over here to say Matter 1005, Acquisition of Active Financial, NetDocuments behind the scenes will take it from there, will default the author and the doc type to be email, and those emails will then automatically show up here in the email section of that particular matter workspace in NetDocuments. It's literally just a simple drag and drop. Now, you can, of course, take this a step further if you want. You can expand that matter folder, and there will be a subfolder that represents all of the available document types. And so if you want to save the email into the matter, but you don't want the doc type to be email, you could drag it into one of those other doc types very easily. This also comes in quite handy with attachments, because oftentimes someone will say, well, look, this email has a couple of attachments. I want this attachment to go into agreement. I want this attachment to go into letter, and I want the entire email and the attachments as a record to go into email. So it actually allows for that sort of dragging and dropping and stripping off of attachments as well. Okay. Now, you could, with attachments, this is just sort of an aside here, you could absolutely just open up the attachment and then hit Save As, right, and let our Microsoft Office or Adobe integrations kick in at that point. And that's probably the most common way of doing it. Oftentimes, this is going to be a red line copy of a document that already exists in NetDocs. You want to save it as a new version, Again, the easiest way to do that is going to be just open up the attachments and use our Microsoft Office or Adobe integrations to get that done. But you could drag and drop and strip off those attachments if needed. Okay? So that's one method for saving emails and attachments, just dragging and dropping into those folders. The other method, in my opinion, is a little bit cleaner, but that's just my personal opinion. It was actually designed for people who manage multiple mailboxes. And this is a very common scenario, as you know, in law firms where a secretary or staff member may manage multiple mailboxes. And so the folder tree gets a bit unwieldy. It gets lost in all of the other sort of things that they have over there in the navigation pane. So the second method is to simply profile emails. So if you look right above my inbox, I have a box here that says Client Matter, and then another one that says Subject and Access. Now, Subject and Access are optional, so we're going to aside those for a moment, and let's focus on Client Matter. The point of all of this is that you can highlight as many emails as you want. Simply choose the client, choose the matter, click ND File, and you're done. Those emails will automatically get copied into NetDocuments. Now, a lot of users say, well, I will never click those Client Matter drop-downs every time I want to save an email. That's a very valid concern, but it's important to note that NetDocuments will start defaulting. So in other words, if you receive an email from Marc Duncan and you profile it to Client A Matter B, the next time you receive an email from Marc Duncan, we're not going to automatically save that email because it might be personal or it might be garbage, but we will default that client and matter. So all you have to do is a one-click file. You just have to click ND File. So even though these are drop-downs, very rarely will you be using these drop-downs because of that defaulting. Okay? A couple other nice things about this particular method. We will actually put a little ND column in your inbox. And again, ND, of course, stands for NetDocuments. What this does is every time you save an email, we'll put a little yes, 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 yes next to any of the emails you've already saved into NetDocuments. And so if you're working at the end of the week and you're trying to clean out your inbox and you think, oh, did I save this into NetDocuments? There's a yes indication that you have done so. Very, very easy stuff. Now, let's talk about this subject and access field. Again, these are optional. Access is pretty self-explanatory. If you want to save some emails into the system but you don't want anybody else to see them, you can mark them as private as you're clicking ND File. They'll go into NetDocuments, but nobody else will be able to see them. Okay? The other one here is ND Subject. So the way the ND Subject works is oftentimes you save an email into the document management system, but it becomes very difficult to find once it's in the document management system. And one of the main reasons for that is subjects mean very little. They're very nondescriptive. They're not very helpful of what you're looking at. So NetDocuments actually allows you to change the subject as you're filing. So for example, I have this email here that says Andrews Myers. Well, I don't want, when I'm looking for that in NetDocuments, I don't want the title to be Andrews Myers, so I'm going to change it to be something like Final Copy of Agreement for Andrews Myers. And that way, when I'm looking for that in the document management system, it's much easier to find. We'll still maintain the original subject for compliance purposes, but we change the title to something that's much more intuitive. And last but not least, another reason I like this particular method of saving emails is it can show up when you're sending an email as well. So we absolutely have the send and file functionality. So if you're about to send an email to somebody and say, look, I should save a copy of this in NetDocuments, you can choose ND Send and File. And as you click Send, we will pop open this dialog box for Client Matter, Access, and Subject again. Very easy. And this is where you'll find that defaulting comes in the most handy, because if I send an email to this person yesterday and I profiled the particular client matter, when I click Send and File today, it's going to default that same client matter. So all I'd have to do is click Send and File, Send and File. More often than not, it's a one-click file. So we have the Send and File functionality as well. So again, whether it's dragging and dropping into folders or whether it's profiling or whether it's Send and File, NetDocuments has multiple very easy ways of saving emails and attachments directly from Outlook into NetDocuments. And to really kind of take that full circle and wrap this up, let's talk very quickly about then finding those emails in NetDocuments, because lots of document management systems make it easy to save emails. Finding those emails once you're in the document management system is another story altogether. So a couple things about NetDocuments that are fairly unique. First off, just like recent docs, each user has a My Email list. And if they click My Email, this is going to show them the most recent emails that they've saved into the system, organized by sent or received. So if they say, oh, you know, a couple days ago I sent an email, I saved it into the docs, I can't remember the client matter, go to your My Email list. It'll be right there ready to go. Very, very simple. Okay. The other thing that we added is this little email icon up here in the search box. So oftentimes when people want to search their emails, they have to go to an advanced search page and narrow, you know, emails only and that sort of thing. With this, you just click Email Search, and we pop open this neat little dialog that says, all right, let's just search your emails. Very, very simple. They don't have to go to advanced search and narrow it all down. They just click the email icon and it pops open, ready to go. Of course, the preview pane. Now, I showed you the preview pane earlier on in the demo for documents, which is all well and good, but it was actually designed for emails because people want to view emails in the document management system just like they do in Outlook. So they can check the box next to an email, click preview, and over there on the right-hand side, they'll have a preview. And by the way, they can move, collapse this navigation or this preview pane as much as they want. They can also just hold down their control key and click the down arrow, and they can preview these emails in the document management system almost just like they would in Outlook. Very, very simple stuff. Okay? And last but not least, NetDocuments has two separate views. Earlier on in the demo, I showed you how you can change the column views and that sort of thing for each user. Well, I want to revisit that because I want to point out something very, very interesting. You can have a documents column view and an email column view. So you say, look, when I'm looking at documents, I want the columns to be matter, author, doc type, and doc ID. When I'm looking at emails, I want the columns to be sent by, sent to, email date, and subject, or whatever it may be. So very, very much lots of customizations here. You know, not only is it very easy to get these emails from Outlook into NetDocuments, but once they're there, accessing these emails, reading these emails, working with these emails is very, very easy as well. Okay. Well, that is NetDocuments in a nutshell, or what we oftentimes say, the Reader's Digest version of NetDocuments. I think we're ending just a minute or two early, so Tony, I will turn it back over to you to either wrap things up or to open it up for more Q&A if there is any.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the demo. Thanks for giving me your time this evening. I hope you guys found that interesting. There was a question that came through during that, and if there are any more, then please do ask the questions now. Email me or put them in the questions box. The question was about security. How do I apply security to a document? And that's from Vanya.
Yeah, great question. So we could have an entire demo just on that concept if you want, but the real short answer to that is it can be as simple or as sophisticated as you need it to be. As you would expect with any robust document management system, any law firm of any decent size is going to use what we call profile-based security. So the security just gets inherited based on the profiling. So if it's this practice area, if it's this doc type, if it's this matter, whatever it may be. So you'll have sort of a security model built on those profiles. But then, of course, that can be changed. Assuming a user has access, they can actually go in and say, well, you know what, this document inherited a certain amount of security, but I want to go in and I want to modify that access and restrict it to only these certain people or to only myself or whatever it may be. So again, it can be as simple or sophisticated as you need it to be, but most law firms have sort of a profile-based security model that can then be changed or modified as needed by each user, assuming they have access to do so.
Right, we've got another question coming from Brett, and this is, what matter management systems can you integrate with? And actually, I'll take that one, Marc. It integrates with any SQL-based system, essentially. So as long as you can do a SQL query against it, there's a tool called NDLink2. Feel free to Google that. It's available to download and have a look at the documentation. Provided free by NetDocuments, and essentially you map a SQL query to the profile data tables, but essentially any SQL table you can integrate with. If you want to get a bit further than a kind of standard mapping from a PMS, there's a full API suite that you can play with, and lots of people have built lots of very cool things around all of that. Yep.
Thank you, Tony.
Looks like that's it for questions, which is, but please, if you've got any more, just please do put them through, but it looks like that's it, which is great. We're finishing dead on time, so.